Food of the Gods is a movie about a guy named Morgan. Morgan is a professional football player, and one day Morgan and a couple of his buddies go out to this little island. It's somewhere in British Columbia. They're out riding horseback chasing a deer through the woods, and one of the guys in the group goes off alone. And he ends up getting stung to death by this giant wasp or mosquito or something like that. Morgan goes off looking for help on the island, and he comes across this little cabin. He hears a noise in a shed, and he goes to look and see what's inside of it, and there's all these gigantic chickens, and he ends up getting attacked by a rooster. Well, he survives, and when he gets out, there's this old lady standing there with a shotgun. They have words, and he's like, "Where'd you get those chickens?" She tells him he shouldn't have gone in there. Then she asks him, will he come inside and look at something? And at first he says no, but then he does because he feels bad and he really just wants to get the hell out of there. They go inside and she says, "Are those what I think they are?" And he says, "Yep. There's rat holes in the walls." And the lady's like, "The rats must have gotten in the food." Turns out the lady has this stuff. Her and her old man named Mr. Skinner. But anyway, they got this food that makes the chickens grow giant. And I guess they're feeding them so they can make them big on purpose so they can eat them. Which is a damn good idea, and I think scientists should start doing that because chickens multiply like rats. Oh yeah, the rats. Anyhow, Morgan and the other guy take their friend who got stung to the doctor on the mainland, and he says that he must have been stung by 250 wasps, just judging by the amount of poison in his system. But it wasn't, it was just one big ass wasp. Back on the island, shit is hitting the fan already. Mrs. Skinner was attacked by some giant grub worms, but she killed him. But Mr. Skinner wasn't so lucky. He was driving home through the woods, and the rats that were bigger than the car he was driving attacks him and eats him. So the next day, these people come out to the island. Turns out the Skinners have contacted this dude who owns a dog food company because they want to talk to him about this stuff they found on the island that makes everything grow bigger. But the giant rats have eaten the chickens, so she has no evidence. But she takes Thomas and his assistant out into the woods where they found this spring in the ground, and this stuff is just oozing out of the ground. His assistant, I think her name is Rita, asked the old lady if they fed this stuff to all the chickens. And the old lady says, yeah, but only the babies grew. The grown ones didn't grow at all. But when the babies grew giant, they ended up eating the regular sized chickens. Then they get attacked by giant wasps. Wasps is a hard word to say. Morgan and his buddy go out into the woods to investigate some more. They go back out to the farm and they find Thomas getting attacked by these things, and then Morgan starts fighting him with his bare hands. And then Morgan's buddy throws him a gun and he starts shooting the wasps and saves the day. But it turns out Thomas is a real dick. Morgan saves his life, and then all of a sudden the dude is immediately like, if you're here about the stuff, you're shit out of luck. Morgan's like, well, the wasps killed my buddy, so if you own the stuff, then I guess it's like second-degree murder. So you want to get off my back, or do you want me to sue your balls off? And then that dude's like, dirty bastards. And he just stomps off. There's this lady named Lorna. I think she's like an assistant or something, and she likes the cut of Morgan's jib. So she and him go out into the woods to try to find the hornet's nest. They find it, and it's huge. So they go back home, and Morgan gets his buddy, and they go back out after dark to try to get these things when they've all gone back to the nest. They manage to put some explosives in it, and they make a fuse out of like bed sheets, and then they explode the wasp nest. Morgan saves the day. But then Mrs. Skinner comes running out into the woods screaming that they got Lorna. They run back up the hill, and I guess Lorna's got drug into a hole by the rats, but she's okay. Morgan tries to save her and he slides down the hole, but the rope broke and the hole caved in, and so now they're trapped in this rat hole with rats the size of a VW. They're peeking around the corners and the rats keep on attacking, but Morgan keeps shooting them, and it's just a good old-fashioned bloodbath in a tunnel, you know? Morgan's buddy comes down and helps shoot him because he's a ride or die. Well, they finally get out of the rat hole. Also, I forgot to mention all this. Morgan's friends, Thomas and Rita, have come to the island, and Rita's pregnant. I think I'm getting characters confused. I don't think Thomas was the guy who owned the dog food company. I think his name was Bensington. I don't know, I forget. And Lorna was the assistant, not Rita. If you're keeping up with anything I'm talking about, you're a brave soul. So when they get out of the hole, Thomas and Rita are being attacked by giant rats in their Winnebago. But they manage to get away and get back to the rest of the group. But it's all going to hell. Morgan and his buddy get in the Jeep, and they're turning around the mountains in that Jeep, and this movie really made me want a Jeep. They were going over hills and through water 90 miles an hour. I gotta get a Jeep and a buddy. Bensington is losing his mind. He is money crazy. He's out in the backyard with buckets and mason jars trying to harvest whatever he can from this spring. He's like, I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna cure world hunger. I'm gonna make giant cows and chickens. I'll be able to wipe my ass with $100 bills and not even count them. And Lorna's like, gross. Mrs. Skinner is having a nervous breakdown. She's like, the stuff was a gift from God and we have sinned because they were trying to sell it, you know? And now we've been cursed. I'll never sin again. Meanwhile, Morgan has figured out the rats can't swim. They're too heavy now because they're huge, and him and his buddy try to lead them to water to drown them, and it works a little bit. But then Morgan and his buddy ends up getting attacked by him, and his buddy gets pretty much chewed to death. It's very gruesome, but it's awesome. Morgan hops in the Jeep and goes back to the farm. When he gets there, Bensington's loading up the Jeep with all those jars of stuff. Bensington's like, what's happened to your buddy? Did he run out on you? And Morgan trips out. He jumps out of the Jeep and gives Bensington the beat down. He starts smashing all the jars and stuff. And Bensington's crying because he's smashing all his money. And then the giant rats start running down the hill. Everyone else starts running inside, but Bensington starts trying to save what little of the stuff he can. But the rats trample him and chew him to death too. Good. Bensington was an asshole, fuck him. Morgan is in the back room of the house emptying all the shotgun shells into a bowl. Thomas freaks out about it, but Morgan's got a plan. He's putting all the powder from the shells into these tubes, and he's pretty much making like dynamite or something. And then Lorna's like, I'm thinking of something, and you might think I'm crazy. I want you to make love to me. And he's like, yep, that's crazy, but hit me up when we get back to the mainland. Know what I'm saying? She's like, we're never getting out of here. He's like, we are definitely getting out of here. Meanwhile, Rita is practically giving birth. She's like, my whole life I have worried about how I will die, and now I'm about to be eaten by giant rats. Crazy shit. She's just worried about her baby though. Can't blame her. The rats are pretty much encasing the house from the outside. Morgan and Thomas are throwing homemade dynamite at him, and then one of the rats breaks inside and chews Mrs. Skinner to death. I knew they'd get her. That bitch had rat food written all over her. Lorna sees this and freaks out. The pregnant lady is freaking out. The rats are breaking through the ceiling. It's intense. Lorna and Rita are barricaded in this one room, and then wouldn't you know it, Rita is starting her bullshit. She goes into full-blown labor. It's too much stress. She doesn't even have her delivery playlist. Morgan and Thomas have gone out to the edge of the island where there's this barricade that's holding back the water. They use what's left of the dynamite to explode the dam, because that's Morgan's plan, to drown these giant rats. Cut to, it's a boy. Rita has had the baby and the rats are trying to eat everybody. It is chaos. I can't stress it enough. Never before has the shit hit the fan in such a manner. Morgan and Thomas are shooting rats. Rats are busting through the window. They're running to the second story of the house because the floodwaters are coming in. They make it to the balcony on the top floor, and they just watch as the water rises and all these shrieking rats just start slowly drowning. And these are actual rats that they have attacking a model house. And they are 100% drowning these rats. IRL. It was the 70s. So if you don't like watching real life animals get murdered for the sake of production, don't watch this movie. Anyway, they kill all the rats. It's a massacre. The waters subside and they start dragging all these rats out and throwing them in a pile. And then they set the rat pile on fire. Then we hear this voiceover of Morgan saying how he was so glad that they got rid of all the giant rats, and he hopes all the stuff is gone because if even one drop of it exists, then things could get real bad real fast. Then we see a couple of Bensington's little jars that are still lying in this ditch, and the water carries them out into the lake. Then they wash up on shore where these cows are standing there drinking water from the lake, and the stuff has spilled out of the jars, of course. So you're like, oh shit, giant cows. But then it shows the cows are going to a milking plant. And then it shows the milk at these schools where they're handing them out to little kids, and the little kids are drinking this milk. And remember at the first of the movie when the woman says they gave it to the baby chicks and they grew but the adults didn't? So yeah, we're pretty much fucked. Anyways, we see a little kid drinking the milk, and it's a freeze frame, and then the movie goes off. It was pretty good. I don't know if they ever remade that movie. This is supposed to be like a serious film, but the giant animals kind of make it a little bit silly. A modern audience could never take giant chickens seriously, but I could see if they remade it into like a horror comedy. I'd watch it. Anyways, it's on Tubi.